Uh, what is the intra-Warsaw Pact beef behind Dr. Mike's persistent refusal to credit any form of stiff-legged deadlift to the Romanians? It's easy. The Romanians did not invent the Romanian deadlift. They were using an exercise that people in America had been using for generations, and they came over and they did a seminar and they were doing their stiff-legged deadlifts like they were, which many people in America already did. And then a couple of fucking retards in attendance at the seminar were like, hey, that's a real weird way to do them, even though people had done them for a long time. And they're like, they started the thing, well, it was a Romanian style, Romanian deadlift. And then they just kept saying that. And all of a sudden, people like to say things like Romanian deadlift because it makes it exotic. Just regular stiff-legged deadlift isn't sexy. Also, the Romanian deadlift, or whatever you have is the only proper way to do a stiff-legged deadlift. There are people who say that there's multiple types of stiff-legged deadlifts. There aren't. There's just one. It is to target your hamstrings and posterior chain. You keep your knees just slightly bent. You hinge at the hip. You keep your back straight. You go down until you feel a deep, painful stretch, and you come back up. That's it. That's stiff-legged deadlift. Now, do you start it from the ground or touch to the ground? Do you start it from a rack? That, bench pressing from your chest, pausing at the chest or not, is still bench pressing. It's just a slight variant of bench pressing. So a lot of people think these are different exercises. And then there's powerlifters that try to do a stiff-legged deadlift by essentially almost locking out their knees, rounding their back and picking up the weight. And I think they're just training wrong. They're just gigantic, roided up monsters that do whatever they want, which is fine. It's probably not a good idea for you to do. So there really is only the stiff-legged deadlift. And it has some variations. Snatch grip, for example, is a fine variation. We don't have to call it a different exercise. Pull-ups have like 18 different variations of grip and cadence and all this stuff. We just fucking call them pull-ups. So yeah, it's not a Romanian deadlift. It's a fucking stiff-legged deadlift, and the Romanians do it too.
Yeah, I agree with Dr. Mike. So I've had some colleagues in the past try to differentiate the stiff-legged and the Romanian as like the stiff-legged is your leg is largely fully extended with a slight bend. The Romanian is a more pronounced bend, which takes the tension off the hamstring and puts it on the glutes, right? I think that's
a shitty glute exercise.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's a needless differentiation because it ends up just being a shitty glute exercise where you could just be doing a whole bunch. I would say like you could even just do lunges at that point and get a way better glute stimulus. Jesus Christ. So I think it's like a needless level of differentiation. And if you're like, I don't know, I'm trying to like put this into words, but like that's like a needless amount of technique variation on one movement. I don't see what the point of like having that in your toolkit is if you can already do a really good stiff-legged deadlift. So take it or leave it, but I think it's stupid.
Yeah, 100%.